It's at the bottom. There we go. All right, you on? All right. Thank you very much for coming out tonight to the Trinity Metro public meeting. Phil Duper is going to be your presenter today. I'm here to do the easy part and welcome you guys here. My name is Chad Edwards. I'm Executive Vice President of Strategy, Planning, and Development here at Trinity Metro. So part of my area is the planning department. So Phil can tell you a little bit about what he does. Just before he starts the presentation, we are streaming on YouTube, so just to give you a heads up on that. We do have a handful of folks who are watching online, so thank you very much for that. And we do have some staff in the room, so Phil we'll go through the presentation and then open up to any questions you might have on Title 6. All right?
Great. So the president of TM's watching, and he heard what I said.
I don't know if he's watching, but he might. He might hear. So, all right. Well, thank you guys, and I'll turn it over to Phil.
All right. Well, thanks everybody for coming, and I apologize if you tried to come Thursday and found the room empty. We had to change it because of the weather, and I got scrambled to try to change the dates and get notices out and everything, and changed the date everywhere except my title slide here. It's still February 2nd. My name is Phil Duper. I'm the Director of Planning here at Trinity Metro, and with the agency for 17 years now. So been around a long time and seen a lot of changes in the planning area, bus service. So watched quite a bit of growth, and I've also been through this Title VI program a number of times. And so that's what I want to brief y'all about today is our Title VI program. So Title VI, I'll give you a little bit of background on it. Title VI is based, it's on Section 601 of Title VI of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. This is basically the law that established equal rights, and for us, in particular, federally funded agencies, we get some of our tax money, grant money through the Federal Transit Administration. We have to assure that the benefits of those federal tax dollars are shared equally throughout our service area, and that level and type of services that we provide are sufficient across the service area, and that no one is precluded from participating in our service planning. So whenever we make changes, we have public meetings like this to tell people about it and get feedback. We make sure that decisions regarding service changes are made without regard to race, color, or national origin. And also, sometime in the about 2000, the ability to speak English was added by a presidential executive order. And so we also make sure that development, urban renewal, if we're doing anything like that, doesn't cause any kind of adverse environmental impacts or health burdens on those minority communities. And we also have to have in place a program for correcting discrimination, whether it's intentional or unintentional. And part of what we do in the Title VI program is we do a whole lot of analysis to make sure that there wasn't any unintentional discrimination. Because we certainly don't intend to discriminate, but sometimes program decisions that are made, sounds like a good idea when it happened, but then there's sort of this chain of events that occurs, things happen that might not have anticipated. So we have to go through the process, analyze all of those types of things, and make sure that we didn't do anything we didn't intend to do. So we have to make this, once we've done all this analysis, we have to make this report every 3 years to the Federal Transit Administration. report will cover a lot of different things, like our representation with various different boards, things that we have. We have to have a public participation plan, how we reach out to the public, get people involved in meetings. We have to have a language assistance plan for those who don't speak English very well. We have our service standards, which is a set of statistics or criteria by which we use to make service change decisions. And those service standards are part of this plan, but we actually our board approved a set of service standards back in September. So those are actually a part of this plan as kind of added to the appendix. We do an assessment of all of these plans and standards, and that's where we go into a lot of statistics that we cover tonight. We also have to document what we call our major service change process, equity analysis process. If we do any fare changes, we have to do a fare change equity analysis on fare change. We didn't change any fares in the last 3 years, but if we had, that's part of Title VI program. We also have to evaluate our customer satisfaction, things like travel patterns for minorities and low income. And so all of these things go into a Title VI program that we will turn into the Federal Transit Administration. It winds up being like a 350-page document, but that's part of the things that we have to go through. So I'm going to run through a bunch of statistics and programs, and then I'll try to get through it quickly so that we can get to the end and then answer any questions. Representation. So we have our board of directors, and currently this is how our board of directors is made up: 7 Caucasian, 2 Hispanic, 2 African American. They're appointed by partly by our city council. The city council appoints 8 of them, and the other 3 are appointed by the Tarrant County Commissioners. So that's how they get appointed. We also have created a public participation plan. We actually had to make a lot of modifications in the last 3 years due to COVID. Some things have changed, but anytime that we do any kind of major service reduction or fare increase, or if we do have any kind of long-range planning activities going on, we're minimally required to hold a public hearing and have board approval on those before they go into effect. When we have public meetings, we try to put the advance notice out at least 10 days and post it in places and such that it's going to be seen by minority low-income passengers. In the past, we put a lot of these on board the buses, and, but now we're starting to look at using more of the social media type things to get outreach to people. We're live streaming this meeting tonight, which we found a lot of people have access to the internet and prefer to just watch it rather than, it's easier to watch it rather than trying to make it down for a meeting. So we've made a lot of improvements and additions. We found that most of our riders do have access to the internet and get much of their information about our system online. And so we've added to our public participation plan for this go-around using our Gov delivery system. This is the email system that you can sign up for alerts. And Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Nextdoor, these kinds of things to get word out about changes in meetings. We're also live streaming this meeting, and we'll live stream future meetings. And then we can post a video of that presentation once the meeting is done. We've also just done some reorganization within Trinity Metro and created a community engagement department. And so our community engagement department will be able to do further outreach in the community by showing up at neighborhood events and talking to the various neighborhood stakeholders and getting people involved involved that way. And then, we've reformatted our board meetings. We used to have board meetings where it was like sort of split between 2 days. Staff would make a presentation to committees, subcommittees of the board on one Monday, and then they would come back and vote on them the following Monday. But we've restructured our board meetings now so that everything's just all on one Monday. And that way, if the public wants to come down and hear about what's going on, and voice their opinion about those, then they only have to come to the one board meeting. It's going to be much simpler. We also have a language assistance plan, so we actually have a service that we subscribe to, that we can make three-way phone calls with an interpreter for other languages. So if you call our customer service department and say you only speak Hindi or something, then they can connect you with they can make a three-way call with an interpreter. So we have that now. That's part of our language assistance plan. We have then also the federal government likes for us to do an analysis of the various languages that we find within Fort Worth. If you find a minimum of a certain number of languages, they like for us to actually put certain forms and legal documents online. So we're actually we have a part of our web page where those are at, and so we've had Spanish, Vietnamese, Korean, Arabic. Some of these documents, like if you want to apply for access or paratransit, then those forms are available in these other languages. But just within the last 3 years, our newest analysis, we've had to add Arabic to that. If somebody calls ahead of time, we can actually have that same company that does our three-way calls, they can send an interpreter to a meeting like this. Somebody lets us know ahead of time they need interpretation. I mentioned our service standards that our board approved back in September. That's a set of policies that define a minimum level of service or amenities, and it covers things like the vehicle loads, how many people allowed to be standing on a bus. That hasn't been a big issue since the pandemic, but it used to be. Headways, what's our minimum frequencies that we would allow? On-time performance, that's how early or late the bus is. Our schedule, our service availability, which is how many people have access to bus stops within walking distance. Service span, which is how early morning, how late in the evening buses are going to run, and the types of vehicles that get assigned to different routes, distribution of transit entities, how we assign which stops get a shelter or a bench, and then key performance indicators, which is how we measure that performance of the route. That's one of the things we actually kind of look at when we're saying, oh, there's not very many people riding this route, should we discontinue it or should we change something? So a lot of that stuff is in the service standards document. It's about a 60-page document that becomes a appendix to the Title VI report. When we go through an analysis to see how well we're performing against our service standards, and we then compare how we're doing on minority routes and non-minority routes. So the federal government gives us a set of criteria for defining what's a minority route, what's a non-minority route. And that's basically if 1/3 or more of the miles of that route pass through a minority or low-income census tract, then it's a minority route. Same goes for a low-income route. So that's how we define it. Low income for our purposes, they let you define it any way you want, but for our purposes, since it's just a way of statistically measuring, then we just use straight poverty level, and it just makes it's an easier way to just because the data is available, it's easy. But when we do that, we find that 34 out of our 37 bus routes are either minority or low income. So only 3 out of 34 are not. We do tend to have more service in the low income parts of town than we do the higher income parts of town. So when we go and analyze some of these performance, we look at vehicle load, for instance. I mentioned that before COVID, we used to have to worry about people standing in buses. It hasn't been such an issue since COVID. I might still see some people standing once in a while, but usually that's because they just want to. And there's generally plenty of seats available on most buses today. Our headways, we have a maximum headway. Headway is the time between buses of 60 minutes. 60 minutes between buses is our max. Average headways, we do a calculation to see how much our average is for the minority routes and non-minority routes. And they're very similar, 40 minutes and 42 minutes. Same thing for low income and non-low income. So there's no disparity there, headways. We look at our on-time performance, and we actually find that our minority routes seem to have a greater on-time performance, 93% of non-minority routes. Same with low-income routes, but they're really close. So there's no disparity there on on-time performance. Our service availability. So we look at how many people are within walking distance of the bus stop, and like I said, we do have more bus service and more services in the lower-income parts of town. So as you might imagine, the minorities have about 74% within walking distance of transit. So again, there's not really disparity there. When we add in all of our, not just bus stops, but when we add in our zip zones, we have like 53% of everybody in this forward has access to transit. Our goal is to continue to increase that coverage as much as budget will allow. So we looked at our service band, and the average service band, this is about 15.2 hours on weekdays and 16.4 hours average on weekends. And minority routes enjoy a little bit greater span of service. Non-minority routes, low income averages, though when we look at the low income average, I found that that's actually a little bit lower just because of the effect of having some low income express routes, and express routes just have lesser hours of service during the day. So we also look at our distribution of amenities, which is how our shelters, benches are distributed. And as I mentioned before, most of our services in the low income parts of town, so our benches and shelters similarly the same way. Most of our shelters are in the minority parts of town. And then as far as the shelters, 78% are in low income parts. When we look at benches, so most of our benches are in the minority parts of town. Same thing, the low income. Most of our benches, though, are 30 to 40 years old and pretty bad. Some of them pretty bad shape. So we're actually about to embark on a program to replace all of our benches over the next few years. So be on the lookout for that. We also have to describe for the FDA our service change process, which we generally do service changes twice a year in March and September. There's a whole bunch of internal processes around that. Kind of see our Gantt chart with lots of different steps. But it's kind of centered around that labor union contract. So there are a lot of things that we have to comply with our drivers. The service change also is the time of year when they get to choose what routes they wanna run or what, schedule they want to run. They get to, the more seniority they have, they're higher up on that pick list, they get better, they get to choose first. And so there's a lot of, things that have to go around that, labor contract. And then, once all the decisions are made and everything, all the, what we call runs are cut, then we do printing and publishing, printed schedules, putting things on the website, getting out for people to see. And then, when we have public meetings like this, we're doing a service change, we're allowed to do minor service changes, making, little schedule changes, change the bus route by 5 minutes here or there. We can do that administratively, but if we make a major service change, that's when we have to go back out to the public. So our major service changes are defined as a decrease of 25% or more of the revenue miles or hours of a route or the span of service. Also, if we change a route by more than 25% of the miles, we move it over a block, that's 25% of the route, then that triggers having the public process go through. Also, establish a whole new route, or if we're going to discontinue a route entirely, that triggers the process. So our service change process, we start with the public involvement plan, we post the notices, we do this outreach, as we talked about before, we're going to be doing Facebook, Twitter, Nextdoor, et cetera. The live streaming meetings, and then once we have this meeting, then we'll take all the comments that we get at this meeting, we'll make some, if we need to, we'll make adjustments before we go to the board. But then we'll also transcribe all the comments verbatim, and provide those to the board as well. There's a number of ways that we have set up for people to make comments, whether you're in a meeting, public comment, raise your hand and ask questions in the meeting, or send us an email. We have a phone line set up, people can call and record a message. So those are the various ways that people can let us know what their feelings are about route change or service change. And then once all of that is gone through, we take it to our board of directors meeting, which is the third Monday of each month, 3 p.m. It's right over here, our New Grove headquarters building. So it's right just a block away from here. So part of our Title VI programs, we have to go back through in the last 3 years and analyze all the major service changes we've done for handling connectivity. We did do 2 major service changes in the last couple of years. Of course, the big one was our system redesign, September 5th, 2021. We had some consultant help that helped us brand it as a better connection. So we went through a whole process with that, and I'll describe that in a moment. We also did the service change for another major service change to route 5 and 54. Last September was 1 year after the system redesign, after we got a lot of feedback about services within the VA clinic. People wanted changes to the way that service was provided at the VA clinics. We made an adjustment basically, but it was a big enough adjustment that triggered that whole service change process. We did our equity analysis on both of those, and there were no, what the FDA calls disparate impacts or disproportionate burdens. So we went through a number of public participation. We have to document all the public participation we went through during that 3-year period. We had, over that period of time, we had 20 public meetings. Our system redesign, that was actually 3 rounds of 3 public meetings each, plus 1 public meeting that we did for the final draft before we took it to our board. And then what we did different in that scenario was we had 3 of those meetings, so each of those first 3 rounds, we did one of the three meetings each in President and entirely in Spanish. So that was something we did that hadn't been done before, was doing a meeting entirely in Spanish. But since it was such a major change, that we felt that we needed to reach out to the Hispanic community more. We did a service change meeting for the Routes 5 and 54 that I mentioned. We had a meeting, public meeting about our service standards in August, before our board approved the service standards in September. And we also are doing an analysis of the East Lancaster corridor, looking at potential for what we call bus rapid transit, which is kind of a new exciting way to provide bus service on a single corridor. And we had some grant money to do a study about how transit-oriented development could possibly occur along East Lancaster. So for that planning program, we had a series of 7 public meetings. And then I'm counting, this meeting is number 20, so this covers a Title VI program, inclusion of our Title VI program. We also looked at, during the period, what was our customer satisfaction. So summer before last, we had a consultant that did a study, conducted a survey on board buses. They surveyed, it was 2,700 people, and got their feedback on how they felt about our transit service, doing a good job, whatnot. They covered areas about cleanliness, accessibility, reliability, comfort, safety, security, courtesy, professionalism, and all sorts of things. And so the initial report came out. So I agree, everybody loves what you're doing. But then when Title VI, I started doing this Title VI analysis to see, kind of parse out from the respondents who identified as minority versus non-minority, how are the minorities' satisfaction compared to non-minority? There's a lot more minorities in the survey, but on the graph here, kind of see that our non-minorities, red, were just slightly more satisfied with us than our non-minorities. And then low income is the same story. Our low income respondents were slightly more slightly less satisfied with us than our non-minorities. Sorry, too many statistics running through my head. So anyway, so that, I mean, it's not very much. It's just within 5-10% here, and I thought, well, okay, maybe it's within the error rate of the survey, but I wanted to make absolutely sure. So I contracted with another third-party consulting firm to do an analysis of this customer service satisfaction data for me. And so they went through and studied, kind of cross-tabulated all kinds of different things to see if they can pinpoint, is there somewhere in our system, there's something that we're doing somewhere that's causing this slight variation. And what they discovered was that even on the same bus route, so just the same bus route, same people riding the same bus route, minorities were scoring a little bit lower. Even on the train, looking at the on-time performance of the train, which we can quantifiably measure, we know what it is, we know how many trains come in late. Minorities and low income were scoring reliability just slightly lower. And so they came to the conclusion that what it is probably that the minorities and low income are more greatly impacted when a bus is late. And so it's, minority minorities more likely to have a job that's punching a time clock as opposed to non-minorities who might be on salary. So something like that. So their recommendation to us was to continue to work on improving our on-time performance, because it was all centered around that on-time performance and reliability. So I'm kind of getting dry here. So we also looked at our key performance indicators, and this is a lot of kind of financial ridership statistics, like I said, that we look at when we're trying to decide if we need to make a change to a route or discontinue a route. We always allow a new route 12 months before we do anything. So like when we did our service, our Pay Better Connection service, our complete system redesign in September of 21, we knew that we're not really going to make any changes to it for at least a year, because it takes a while for people to get used to things and settle in. And so we always give it some time. And we look at which routes then kind of fall out of the normal range of statistics. And so found that right now we've got like 11 of 37 routes that are kind of outside of that normal range of statistics. And 10 of those 11 low performing routes are classified as minority related routes here listed. But the good news is that right now the agency is not hurting for money. It's not as if we're looking at it going, hey, cut some routes or anything like that. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to contract with the consultant to come in and look at what we've done with our service, our system redesign, and then do an analysis of that. And now that it's been there for almost 18 months now, give us some feedback, some professional guidance on what kind of modifications we can make. So we're going to make some further analysis on key performance indicators coming up. But these are the kinds of things that the Federal Transit Administration insists that include in our Title VI report.
Hit escape. There you go.
And so that's a conclusion of my Title VI report. Do I have any questions?
Yes, sir. I'm making quick, I'm gonna get the train. Adrian Smith, so, quick observation. First and foremost, thank you all for having this important meeting. Being that, what Title VI, represents in its purpose, thank you all, first and foremost, for having this meeting, this discussion. Between 2020, 2023, since we had the last meeting, you said this is the 20th meeting. Out of the previous 19 meetings, what would you say the percentage of participation was out of the 100? Rather, excluding online, because I know y'all just started.
Yeah, I don't really know, and we don't really ask when people sign in to whether they're minorities or not.
No, just participation overall.
Participation overall.
Yeah.
So yeah, the on the system redesign, we had a lot of participation in that. We had a lot of outreach. We actually had a consultant. Our consultant who did that had a sub-consultant that does public outreach for us, and so they did an awful lot of outreach. I know they did surveys. They reached, I think it was 2,100 surveys. 1,700 of them were actually done on board the buses, and the other 400 were done online. I don't know the statistics on those.
And I based that question just off of today,
Yeah.
It's pretty much, we probably could say, well, last we probably would have had X, Y, Z, but came back there last week out, but we're here now, so
Yeah.
like, you know, this is important. It's, to me, it's a failure, you know, on both Trinity Metro and the city of Fort Worth, you know what I'm saying? Because I feel like this is moving Trinity Metro forward. This is Trinity Metro is part of the city. So more or less this participation, you know, the president that's not here, I think Trinity Metro, and I'm just putting it all on you guys as well, with the city of Fort Worth, they have a due diligence to put a greater effort in, because riding the bus, all I see is the little flyer, you know?
Yeah.
But I'm a person who's observing the thing, I pay attention to everything, but majority of people just on and off. Half the people not even concerned about the little flyer giving out the information, stating these meetings, you know? So I think in that aspect, we have to find a way to get the word.
That's why we added so much to our public participation
Right.
plan for the next 3 years going forward. We added all that, because we recognize that don't
Yeah,
get a lot of
things.
people,
Right.
you know, I used to work for the city, I used to work in the water department. We wouldn't have very much participation on water plans, until the backhoe was digging in somebody's front yard, you know, they have meetings, you know, a couple of years before to say, you know, we're gonna be replacing water lines in the neighborhood, but it wasn't really until the
And as far as the
That's
survey,
going.
as far as the surveys, you say, I would love being part of one of the surveys, but I see those bullet points on the survey, and it basically is bus, the totality, that's everything about the bus, and I'm like, you said the number that did the survey, I said, I think that could have been great, I think it, you know, the numbers were kind of low, you know, and me, being a part of this, you know, I know the numbers are low, but I know this, again, that's just a check box to make improvements, but, last but not least, I think more or less, yeah, it's still a lot of areas that stand to be improved, like you say, the bus access, the availability, you know, I think recruiting is where Trinity Metro is failing. It's not enough, well, let me explain what I'm saying.
Okay.
It's not enough to put plaster it all over the wall that we're hiring, right?
Yeah.
What has been done to get, because I'll tell you right now, right in the area of Trinity Metro where all let's say this, for people, you know, that call the homeless. I'm pretty sure there's a great number of people, if they were just encouraged or just, you know what I'm saying? There's a lot of, there's potential new drivers for Trinity Metro, because Trinity Metro is felons, you know? And the communication sucks, because either buses don't show up, they don't show up on time, and then when they do show up, if you got questions, not all drivers, you got some drivers who are just, whatever, you know, whatever. So I think, more or less, you said out your own mouth that Trinity Metro is not hurting for funding. It's not hurting money-wise. So I say in that aspect, I hope that because they're not hurting, that they feel like they don't have to do anything. So if money starts getting taken away, does that, you know, say, well, we gotta start approving, it shouldn't have to go that route. But I say this, last but I'm about to digress, but I say, I think we need to, as far as the service, I know one thing they cut out is, and I think that was inconsiderate, like, if you're trying to beat a bus, your bus is running late, and you're trying to meet another bus drivers can't call ahead, that communication is gone, it's over. So now you're taking the communication away from the bus drivers, which is like, hey, basically, you as a passenger, you basically on your own, you just gotta, so I think it's a lot of inconsideration that goes on when it comes to the public, you know what I'm saying, who make basically Trinity Metro what it is, you know what I'm saying, and I have a bone to pick with two of those council members on tomorrow, since I see who sits on the board, but I'll say that for tomorrow, but again, thank you all, I'm about to digress, I have to head off to work, but thank you all, about to hop on the train, thank you all for this opportunity to.
Very quick, before you go, thank you for your comments.
Yes, sir.
As hard as they are to hear, we appreciate you saying it, because it helps us try to figure out how to provide a better service to you guys, right?
Yes, sir.
The other thing is since we have heard from many riders that the experience isn't great, we need to improve it. Our first step was what Phil had mentioned, which was a better connection.
Yes, sir.
Improve the route system, improve frequency, improve the span of service, improve as much as we can within the budget that we have. Most recently though, we're working on, hold on a second, hold on a second.
I didn't say plenty, I just said we're not.
Say we got money, we got enough money.
Hold on. So, but the other thing that we've heard also is the customer experience at the bus stop.
Yes.
Right? And so there's an effort underway to improve the amenities at the bus stops, improve shelters, improve benches. I think Phil mentioned some of this, lighting at the stops, right? And so better information for the stops and when the buses are coming, real-time information. So we've heard, we're not there yet, but we're getting there.
Yes,
so
sir.
I just want to share that with you before you have to take off and
No
catch
problem.
the
Hey,
train,
we just, it's time to get understanding,
And-
be a better relationship.
And I agree with you.
Yeah.
A turnout like this is unfortunate. We would love to have 100 people here talking about Title VI, but that's why we're trying to put it online so that more people have access to it later as well.
I'm
So-
not, hey, not kicking you out, thank you.
That's good. Thank you very much.
All right, y'all be blessed.
Any other questions, comments? Anyone?
I have a couple of comments.
Okay.
So I would, I don't know if this is the appropriate time, but I think it does fit in with the Title IX things that you're trying to accomplish with the span of service and who you're trying to serve and making sure that there's not disparities in the service. I was really happy to see the zip zone get expanded and recommend further outreach, and I've shared this with some staff too, but I just want to have it on the record here as well. Doing outreach to the historic South Side and 76104 areas so that they're aware of both the zip zone and the bus service that is now available that doesn't require people to make a trip downtown and a transfer to get onto a bus to get to the hospital district. I've noticed that the Dash sometimes has regular buses running the route with Dash in the header of the bus. I think if we need more electric buses that are branded Dash to fill those services so that we don't have to do that, I think that helps with brand recognition so that people know exactly what they're looking for. And I know that Trinity Metro is looking to do some additional circulators kind of in that brand of the Dash. So I think if we need more electric buses to cover that in order to keep that brand recognition going, that would be a good thing to do. You mentioned bench replacement coming up. And my question was, are they gonna be the same kind of benches? And, cause I think those are antiquated and we could do better than that.
Yes.
And then I noticed that sometimes the placement seems to be more, concerned about visibility of the advertisement on the bench versus comfort of the passenger. So I think the comfort of the passenger should always override visibility of advertisement, even though I know the dollars from advertising are important to the organization. But looking into the possibility of having agreements with adjacent property owners for better and safer placement, so that in skinny areas where you're having to put that bench right up against the right of way and people are having to contend with sitting with fast traffic going right by them, it would be helpful if we could get some agreements with adjacent property owners. I appreciated the explanation of the additional deep dive into the satisfaction scores that you got, because I think that explains it greatly, that the impact on someone who is low income or that delay in getting someplace does explain very well why they might have a higher level of dissatisfaction when something doesn't work out quite right. So I appreciate that explanation. And I think that to the question about the turnout at this meeting, your explanation of having 20 meetings that lead up to this meeting as well is helpful in that it was broader participation than just who's in the room here today. But I think, as always, with any organization, and I feel for the organization in this area, getting people to participate in these meetings is challenging and difficult. And every time we add an additional way that we reach out, we'll hear from other people that that's not the way that reaches them. So it's good to see you adding additional ways to do that community engagement. So that's it.
If I can add one thing, we've mentioned shelters and benches a couple times. And for some reason, I forgot to say that we actually have some example new shelters and benches already installed
On Hemp Hill?
on Hemp Hill.
I saw that.
So, so if you're interested in what some of those might look like, take a stroll or a bus ride down Hemp Hill, and you can see what they look like. So, at least some examples of what we currently have.
And
So,
just one more thing to the comment about we have plenty of money. You do not have plenty of money. I'm here to tell you, you don't have enough money. You have money to do the bare minimum that you're doing right
That's true.
now, and you're doing the best to your ability with the funding that you have. But if you look at peer cities, Trinity Metro does not have the funding that our peer cities have. So we need to make sure that that's on the record.
that's right.
Like I said, we're not hurting, but,
We
we're just
could use more to.
we could use more, but we're not hurting.
That's right.
You're not hurting to provide the service that you currently have,
There you go.
but
Yes.
if you want to expand and have more frequent service, because 1 hour headways are not the best.
And that's part of what we're doing, you know, a review of the better connection, here in the next, couple months to identify, you know, what is working and what isn't working, and how and where can we make improvements? You know, ideally, we would like to get away from 60-minute headways and have nothing more than, I gotta say it right, more than 30 minutes, right? But that comes at a cost, and so how do we do that, and where is it needed? So those are types of evaluations that we're looking at, and how do we improve those services? So, other questions?
Yeah, a good way you can get a lot of money fast by having big city hall is just gonna keep spending. And instead of, when they give it to you, you look at the biggest city outside Fort Worth, and that's Ferguson, right? It's right on the border of Tarrant County, so just buying the land right on the borderline of Tarrant County side, just use gravel for parking lots, poles for lights, cedar blocks for pad to get on off the train, the tax rate, and a security guard watch cars. And have no bus stops clear downtown. Then they'll catch on and do the park and ride there and take the TRE or tax rail to get in new revenue real fast.
Part of our challenge is that the majority of the rail lines in the region are not owned by the public sector. They're owned by private entities. Union Pacific Railroad, Burlington Northern.
Millionaire bigots.
And they're big companies.
Yeah, they're narrow-minded.
So, we have to, since it's their corridor, we have to work with them to
So y'all got.
gain
that
access.
way, good.
So it's a challenge for us, that's right.
Well done. Yeah, you got a problem with the lack of drivers, right?
Actually,
They're quitting faster than you can fire.
not necessarily, we're trying not to fire any of the drivers.
Well, they're quitting.
Because we wanna keep them, some
Because
quit, that's
they
right.
Cut the benefits, mess
We-
with their hours.
Our agency actually does not have a problem with drivers. We have just the right amount of drivers. We would love to have more drivers,
But you can't.
but it's a challenge. The employment market right now is,
Increase the pay to start.
well, that's something that we're looking at, as well, and how to do that. I mean, it all comes at a cost, right? And so if we increase something in one area, we may have to take away in another area, right? And so that's part of the balancing that we have to do as far as being, you know, a public agency, when we spend money. So there's a lot of opportunities for us. The gentleman, that was talking earlier was talking about, you know, what are you doing to find more drivers? We're out there all the time recruiting, not just posters on the bus, but we go out to job fairs, we go out
It's the
to.
money that attracts.
I don't disagree. So that's part of what we're trying to do is evaluate what the salary is, and what the benefits are.
Just
So that we can
salary
bring-
the CEOs.
Okay,
Just take a portion of theirs and give it to the driver.
all right.
And he said bad benches, man, they were good benches they need picking up. Including the one there at the stockyards when it was on the Ellis, and change?
Oh, benches?
Why are they putting them all in the closet, just picking them up? They got just a few out there. And then the north, the bus route north from the stockyards, they ain't got no benches. It's being treated grossly raw.
So you need some
And
benches
the other
on,
bus routes
on Route
that have
15?
benches, and
Okay.
look at the number of benches.
well, our group does that too. We evaluate where the benches are, so.
They've been picking them up.
Well, so,
They're-
many of
they're
them
in
are
shape. They're
damaged.
Fiberglass and
Yeah.
boards.
These
Fiberglass
are,
over right.
these are old benches. A lot of them are
From
damaged.
benches where you can sit 5 people on it, to now you just got 2 people selling bench. How's
Oh,
that
those are
work?
city benches. Up on North
Well, I
Lane.
mean, go back to the old, man, there's a new dog guy for the birds, man, you gotta still sit on the ground. I mean, I'd rather have a bench that's 5 people sit on than one that has 2, have the rest of them sit on the ground. And, oh, that complaint on the internet, their complaint there, why do they cap it about prior written notice? Type it all out, and they don't want it to go through. And.
If you
so
type
I
your
don't even
complaint
use the
online.
internet. They don't wanna hear, okay, and it's only got, put that bold black and white instead of beating around the bush.
So, I
You know, it
guess,
says so many characters.
oh, it's a character limit. Okay,
I call it words, you know, but they mean in the characters being per,
yeah,
Letter.
the letters, spaces.
and
Yeah.
it's not very much, because they don't wanna know what's going on.
I don't know that it's that. It's more of a,
Well,
of
give me
a,
a paper, I'll write it, I don't wanna hear anything more than 25 words, 50 words, no more than that.
that's not why it
Well,
is.
That's,
It's
you're
a
not
limitation
getting
of the
to
system.
problem
yeah,
there,
so.
you know?
Well,
You want me to just do it over and over and over, just do one, try to keep it. And, you said new headquarters that people, customers have access to, up there a couple blocks up the street. No, it's closed off to the public. It's sealed off better than those in Iraq. You know, like we're all terrorists. I mean, you can't even walk in there and give a sealed letter or open letter give to the president, just give to the secretary. You can't even do that. I mean, he says access, well, you got no access. They don't even let you in the door unless you got a park card, right? Or they know who you are, other than the customer. I mean, y'all falsely tailored to these speeches.
no, there's other reasons that I can't go into on why they're locked.
Well, he said we have access to.
You can knock on the door.
I was talking about the board meetings.
Oh, it's board meetings,
The
yes.
board
The
meetings.
doors are open
Yeah,
for board meetings.
Door meetings.
Board meetings.
Board. The board of directors.
Yeah, when
they
the
do
board meetings,
policies,
yeah, when the board meeting is
yeah,
having,
about
the board
30
has their,
days later, 14 days later, they'll do a board meeting on the same thing.
No, that, we have
And
one
what-
board meeting a
Y'all
month now.
agreed, they don't agree, and y'all wasted your time.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I know.
Do you have some more questions or comments?
Yeah, that, what do you call it? Zip zone.
Mhm.
The one in the medical district, one told me this morning, it was in the morning hours, you ain't got enough drivers. She said, they told me that I'd wait over an hour to get picked up. There's the doctor appointment,
For the zip zone?
yeah,
Okay.
so. you
Well,
got
we have to
have
look into that.
You ain't got excess drivers there. I mean, I don't use it in medical district. But, oh yeah, how come the TM, discriminates against the veterans? I mean, they're saying
show us that you're a
So
veteran, you
why
get the
don't,
discount.
why don't they give them a discount? You know,
Any veteran gets a discount.
Huh?
Any veteran gets a discount.
Where's it written?
It's in our policy. If you're a veteran, you get a discount.
But the bus driver today went up there, and I looked, and there's nothing written on your rules.
It may not be on
You
the
may got
bus.
it in your file cabinet or a lock and key.
No, we just announced it in January that veterans get
I
discounts.
read it, it don't, it don't say
Okay,
that.
well, I'll show you where.
I believe you got it in the policy, and a lock and key for nobody to see, but I'm just telling you what's going on. Bus driver went ahead and let them just pay, you know, to reduce traffic.
Right,
But, where's it, what's wrong with posting? It said, Supreme Court said for over a half century, you gotta, first rule of thumb is to have it in writing,
right,
you know, not verbal.
yeah, we have it on our website available to read.
I never go to the website, I just ride the bus, there's nothing written on the bus.
Well,
I go to
you
the
know,
bus
there's only
stop,
so much room on the
nothing
bus that we
written on
can-
the Bus stop, I go to Central
Right.
Station, there's nothing written there.
All right.
Posted.
All right.
I mean, y'all getting that scarce of money to print a paper? It's just that, the text route, I put it in here on the new bus stop, but y'all don't do no advertising, you need to.
For the text route?
Yeah, you got 2.5 million tourists at stockyards, and they tell me, no, I didn't know you can go to the stockyards on the trail.
There's,
Downtown.
so that's part of our work. We have a lot of money in our marketing campaign to.
All you gotta do is just print, you got a printer, and just draw one up, I mean, with an ink pen, just neat as you can, and print it, but on that hardboard, that's waterproof, and just knock some holes in it, use some ties and tie it on the bus pole.
For people to see about Trinity Metro, the text
While they're
route.
waiting on the bus or reading.
Okay,
You know?
all right.
It's all about advertising. Y'all don't advertise, nobody knows about what the text road.
Right, okay.
And not everybody goes to the internet, they don't know where to go, but especially tourists, you know. Now you know what Trinity Metro is?
Well, we work with Visit Fort Worth, who's the Convention and Visitors Bureau. We work with Stockyards, we work with Grapevine, we work with a lot of the Chamber of Commerce. We put it in the newspaper, we have billboards, we have radio advertisements, we got television advertisements, we put it on YouTube, we put it on the internet.
I've
I
never
did.
seen one.
I can't explain why you might not have seen it.
And down there on Central Station, on the bus.
So it doesn't work for us to advertise here because people here already know about our service, so we need to advertise elsewhere. So that's part of the challenge, and if you're saying we're not getting out there, then we need to figure out a better way to get out there.
2.5 million walking around and just put it on the bus pole. And you got the shelter there, and just, instead of putting a map, just put, you know, about text rail on a small map, even on the schedule.
Right.
Yeah, we're looking at new shelters that would have a advertising
Information.
panel on them.
Yeah,
On the 1512, just that big on the bottom, when you open it, that has a little hand-drawn map to where it takes you a mile from the stockyard to the train, you know, and have the hours right there. The half hours, whatever, that the bus come by at this stop.
right. Well, I don't disagree with you. We can always
That's
do a
what
better
they did
job.
with the TRE
So-
at Richard Hills.
so that's
on
what
the
we're-
41 schedule.
So that's
It worked
what
out
we're trying to do, is a better job, so.
I mean, you just gotta inform a disinformed world, and you'll make more money instead of him having to lie and say, we got plenty of money.
I don't think it was intentional.
We've corrected it.
It was maybe a misspeak.
I was trying to reassure everyone that we weren't about to go cutting bus routes.
Right. Well, we'll figure out a better way to say that in the future. So, are there any other questions
Well, I'm
No?
not gonna go into about the bus driver being 35 minutes late and got his prostitute on the bus, keeps her on the bus the whole route, the whole time he's on shift.
Okay. Well, tell us what bus it is and
I
what
wrote the
route.
governor, because customer service, all they do is lie to you, it's like that they told them ahead of time, they're coming for them.
Okay, all right, well,
And
if you tell us what it is, we'll take care of it, so.
I told that one, the only director of operation does it, that Mexican one does nothing. He don't even scoop snow, he's got that over $100,000, 4-foot high snow shovel in front of a brand new 4-door pickup and salt dispensers in the back end and whole back end of that truck. He don't even go down the street and push that slush off away from the curb that freezes at night and gets
Right.
nice and stuck with, because they gotta stop out in the middle because the street curves down,
Right,
you know?
right.
Street made like a gutter. And he don't even do that.
Well, we'll talk to us afterwards and I'll see what I
But
can do.
then,
Yeah.
that one
I'm gonna-
director, he's
I'm gonna have to,
pretty good.
I appreciate all your comments, and I think you've written down quite a bit there, I don't know if you wanna share those with us or not. But
Yeah.
I wanna just thank everybody for coming tonight, we appreciate all your time, coming here, all your comments. And so, if there's not any other questions, we'll go ahead and close the public meeting. If you have comments or questions, you can see those, on this page here. There's, address, there's website, there's phone numbers, and there's comment cards out there, today as well. So, I appreciate you guys coming, in, and, we'll go ahead and close the public meeting.
Where's the candy, coffee, and donuts?
There usually are cookies here.
There are? Oh, okay.
I've seen cookies in the past. I don't know if you want that, I
Yeah.
just got it all nice, that's the question.
Okay. Great, yeah,
Notes,
I appreciate
not all of them,
it.
but
Thank
maybe
you.
to me and asking
So,
questions.
yeah, we'll put it in there, so.
We spend our time going in here and we send it off into the cold type